Hey guys, how are you?
Good evening, Councilwoman.
Good evening. It looks great.
Yeah, the having the 3D rendering makes such an impact. It's so much easier to envision the space.
Absolutely.
Get some other views here too.
Ooh.
I don't know at what point the is the public able to see what we're showing right now, or is it closed off?
I don't think they've let anybody in the room yet.
Okay.
It does say that it's live on.
Yeah, the public could see if they were here, but as of yet, there's no one from the public here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
What about the live on YouTube?
It is streaming live on YouTube at this moment, yes.
See, so it is live on YouTube.
Okay.
But this is awesome.
It's a YouTube exclusive. Yeah, just so we have I think 6 different shots. Allison's put these together. We've got 6 for each of the 2 options, A and B. So here's B, just for comparison. I know that pretty much all the public feedback and just with the school district and your office, it's definitely everyone's leaning toward A, but we've put B together just in case.
Yeah. Oh, it's looking good.
Nope, too far. Let's go back. There you go. I guess I'll leave back in my plan view for the wow factor.
Wow.
Tim, you got dim all of a sudden. Your lighting has gone away.
You want me to pop it up a bit? I thought I looked a little too washed out. I went to my camera and
you went from washed out to kind of lurking a little bit.
All right, let me see what I can do.
What time are folks being let in? Right now?
1 minute.
Okay.
Esmeralda, there is no let-in. People can join anytime they want. It's open, so whenever somebody joins, they can come in. There's right now CMAC and 1 person from the public that are
perfect.
attendees.
There might be traffic.
Yeah, they're having a hard time getting in.
Looking for parking.
Yeah.
So we'll give it a few minutes. It's just it just turned 6 o'clock. We'll give it a few minutes, see how many folks join us. But as was mentioned, everything is being live streamed. We have YouTube and also Facebook, so folks may be tuning in that fashion as well.
Would we know if people are watching on YouTube or not?
I think my staff can tell. Itzy, is there any way too that you can put up the agenda, please? Either on your backdrop or someone else's backdrop?
I think we can share it too.
And then can we tell? I think usually we can tell.
There's only 1 person on YouTube and there's 2 people in attendee here. I have no idea on Facebook. CMAC is handling that one.
I think we also do it on our. Itzy, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're not live on Facebook yet.
Are you putting it live now?
I'm checking because CMAC is the one that handles that.
Oh, okay.
So it should be able to.
And will it be recorded? So that
It
we
is being
can,
recorded, yes.
okay, perfect.
There's the agenda.
Perfect. Just so that everyone kind of has an idea. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. And then hopefully more folks will chime in. I know that my staff has put or made sure that Facebook is on live, so they'll be able to tell us with our Facebook if there are folks that are asking questions and so forth and also participating. So we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone. Including, our consulting group and which is Community Works Design Group. Also our Parks Department, our Assistant Director and the staff that has been helping us through this process. I do want to just say good evening to all the folks that will be joining us this evening. Thank you for participating. As I mentioned earlier, we are also streaming on CMAC, so there may be folks at home that are watching it. We have it also on YouTube and our Facebook. So welcome to our second virtual meeting to discuss the design of the Milburn and Dakota Park. Just a little bit of history for many of you that live west of the 99, and for those that have joined us. This has been a kind of a thought for over 3 decades. And so we are finally able to put, a design or a couple designs forward through participation from the community. And we're hoping that in the next cycle where state gets funding for grants to build new projects or new parks in our community, that this will get funded. So we're hoping for that. But before we submit our application, we wanted to share the remarkable progress that we've made with the design of the park, and pretty much just want to thank our residents from the city of Fresno that have been active in this community engagement process. We received hundreds of folks that submitted their opinions and suggestions through a variety of ways, surveys and so forth. And so we want to thank them. I've also had the opportunity to meet with other stakeholders, most recently the Central Unified School District and its board, and we presented the two options, and I believe from the presentation it was well received and it seemed to have support. We then followed up with a meeting with the administration and its facility folks to get additional input, because the goal, given the location of the Milburn and Dakota Park that is next to the Steinbeck Elementary, we want to make sure that it can benefit the school, and that the school being next to it can also benefit the park, given that it's only a 4-acre, will only be a 4-acre park. And so from the district feedback, we've heard that they're a big supporter of option A, and we'll get the opportunity to see both options, but just wanted to share that. They also, the activities that they cited that were important to them were the green open space, the multi-use fields, the play area, restroom stage with the cover, and also the art opportunities that will be included in the design. They would request consideration of landscaping as setback from fence between the park and the school. Also maybe some upgraded fencing, and we'll have conversations about that later, and just conversations also about making sure that there's security cameras so that it addresses any safety concerns. Also just wanted to make sure that folks get tonight an opportunity to see the two options that have been developed by our Community Works Design Group. We want to hear from you. We've already have received, I believe, over 150 surveys on or submittals by the community on which option they liked. I think that will be shared also tonight. And so essentially we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you what option you'd like, and if there are any things that we may have missed. I think this is a great opportunity also to engage with us before we have a final design. It's a neighborhood park and a great community asset, and because of that, we value your input. We will also have an opportunity for questions and answers towards the end of the agenda, and we welcome folks to participate. So please let us know at the appropriate time if you have any questions or just feedback that you want to share. With that, we will go ahead and turn it over to our Assistant Director, Christina Chamberlain. She can talk to us about the project plans and just give us a general overview of the Milburn and Dakota Park.
Thank you, Council Member. And I am going to take a moment just to tell you, thank you for your leadership. And, without your prioritization of funding to get the design, we wouldn't be having the ability to even apply for the grant. So we appreciate your commitment to D1, obviously, with everything that you're doing for the district. But in particular, I know this is a little bit near and dear to several people's hearts. As you mentioned, it's been 3 decades in the making, right? So, and again, a shout out to your staff that have been really, going out into the field and getting people excited about it and helping generate that community engagement. And we have, like you mentioned, I think it was over 500 initial response to the first survey to identify which are the top wanted or desired amenities within the park. And then the general feedback that we've received, we worked with our partners, with our consultants, and they came up with a unique opportunity for people to build a park. Since during the COVID, we're not able to come together as a group as we would traditionally do. That was something new and exciting, and we had some good participation from our community doing something totally for the first time here in Fresno that we've done something like that. And so we really are at a stage where we're really finalizing and fine tuning just the nuances of the design, because with that final design, then our consultants will have to get real busy in doing what is an estimation of costs for those amenities and the construction of the park so that we meet our deadline of getting the application to the state of California. And so this is a funding opportunity through Prop 68. And we're very hopeful that we'll be successful with this one being funded. And then I will take a moment later in the agenda just to talk a little bit about next steps, but we'll, without further ado, turn it back over to Scott Bryce, part of our consulting team with Community Works. And he will be sharing his screen with us with some of the 3D, well, first the site plan as a general of the option A, and then we'll look at the others. And then we also have some pretty cool slides to show a little bit more like a 3D, so you get a better feel of what it would really look like and feel like. So Scott, take it away.
Thank you, Christina. So the important thing to keep in mind, we've taken all the initial feedback we've gotten from the community through all the various outlets, and we put those amenities into plan form. We've arranged them in 2 different layouts, but this isn't a process of simply just picking A versus B. We're going to take the best of each concept and funnel it down into a final concept. And so with the feedback we get tonight, knowing primarily it seems like the general consensus is shifting toward the general layout of option A, there may be some things that we want to fine tune, and that's really important for the community. This is a great opportunity to interact and share some of those ideas. So we're starting off, this is a conventional plan view. The one thing to remember is it's very rare that you fly over your park. So to help out in understanding the layout of the park, we've generated some 3-dimensional views. And so I'm going to flip through some of these. There we go. So this is a view looking at the corner of Milburn and Dakota with Steinbeck Elementary in the background. You can see the athletic fields and some of the portable buildings showing up. And this is the way that some of the major amenities lay out. And so this concept has a small parking lot centered on the Dakota Avenue side of the park. That parking lot has a connection that feeds through to the fields at Steinbeck Elementary, so that there's opportunity for the shared use with the school district that we're exploring, and that Councilmember Soria has really taken a stand and open those lines of communication with the school district. With that access in mind, the rest of the park amenities lay out so that the fields serve as an extension of that space. But within the park itself, there is a lot of opportunities for shaded picnic areas. There's a big open turf area in the center of the park that serves a lot of functions. At one end of that open turf area is a shelter, like an amphitheater. So there's a lot of different opportunities to use this space. Behind where the amphitheater is, there's a restroom building, and just behind that are the playgrounds. We have 2 multi-use courts in this plan, and it's a court that is geared for futsal use and also basketball. There's a number of uses that it can be going for. There's a dog park in this concept that's right on the corner of Milburn and Dakota. Along the back, there's some exercise stations. Everything's connected with a rubberized jogging path. So there's an opportunity to do laps around the park. Well, maybe people that you're with are doing some of the specific amenities. You can walk around the park on a nice surface. And then we've got a skate park in this design, and this one's got a pretty good size to it. We're showing it kind of looks like a skating rink right now. It's very flat. That's because once we get the park layout locked down and we know what size skate park we want to do, then we'll start exploring with the local skaters to see what types of features, if they'd rather have more street type features or transition flow features. And that's something that we plan on working with after the general park layout gets locked down. And so Allison here actually is the one that came up with these 3D views, and I think that she'd be the best to kind of walk through some of the other shots.
Okay, so now we have a view kind of looking out over the lawn towards the covered stage amphitheater area. And right behind that, as Scott mentioned, is a restroom building. And further behind that would be the play areas and the multi-use courts. In the foreground here, we just have some picnic areas, picnic tables, and then you can see the red area around that would be the rubberized jogging path. So here's a view looking out from, I guess, this elementary school would be to the east here, the corner of Milburn, Dakota to the west. So it's just a view, another view looking across the park, dog park in the corner there. And then a view from the opposite side of the park, looking out over the multi-use courts, better view of the skate park. Then we also have in between the tot and the child play areas would be the water play area.
And that's more of a splash pad. That's not like standing water, but more water features just to play around and get wet and enjoy summer.
And then here's the final rendering of this option, just another view kind of looking from the parking lot towards the plaza area and then across the turf area. So then plan B.
Yeah, so that was the general layout of A, and that's kind of the front runner right now, and we're not going to talk about counting votes or anything like that. That's I think we've heard enough about that. So option B. This is another layout, and it has a lot of the same amenities, but it's a little bit different orientation, different size amenities. This one actually has 3 multi-use courts. The lawn area is pushed off to the side a little bit more, and it isn't quite as wide. It's a little narrower and longer. The playgrounds are in the nearest the parking lot. The parking lot's at the north end of the park. Or I guess that's the other end of the park, the not north. I'm sorry, I'm turning sideways here. Let me see. And this one has 2 separate dog areas. So there's the previous plan had just one, like an enclosed area that you go into and all the dogs interact. This one divides that space into a small dog area versus a large dog area. And so that's one of the key differences. And in this concept, the skate park area is along the backside of the park near the Steinbeck Elementary School fields. So once again, it's so much easier to look at it, not straight up, or not straight down from the sky, but from the side here. So here's some of the 3D views. Once again, Allison put these together.
Yeah, these views are all going to be taken from the same views as concept A. So if you do have the opportunity eventually to compare them side by side, it's really easy to see how the elements lay out differently. So we're starting again with the corner of Milburn and Dakota Avenue, sorry. So you're just looking out across the turf area. Then we have the parking lot in the far corner, and then play areas, water play right off of that parking lot. And then a view here looking across the lawn. As Scott mentioned, this option has 3 multi-use courts instead of 2. We do have lots of picnic shelters in this option as well. This option does not have a covered stage or amphitheater area, but we do have larger covered picnic shelters. So here's a view looking in the corner here in the foreground. We have a large exercise station. The difference between this one and option A is that option A has 2 separate exercise areas. So it's more like exercise stations, and this one has them all kind of grouped together. And then the skate park also along the border of the elementary school there. Here's another view from the opposite side. We have a little picnic area along the parking lot in the corner there. And then as we discussed, we have 2 separate dog areas, one for large dogs and one for small dogs. Here's another view that also shows the connection to John Steinbeck Elementary School.
Yeah, as you see, this concept doesn't have that rubberized path. It still has a lot of loop walking options. You could do a number of different ways to get around the park, so you're not always going on the same loop over and over. Both options have something similar. This one's just more squared off, angular. Yeah. The other one's rounded.
And then one final rendering, kind of just looking down that plaza area with the tot and child play areas on the left and the picnic area and dog park on the right of the palm tree row. And I believe that's all the renderings we have. Yeah.
Yeah, so that wraps up the two different layouts, A versus B. And I'm going to pull the agenda back up.
Well, I'm excited. Those looked really, really cool. Thank you for that work that you guys did to put the 3D concepts together. I think it allows us to get a little bit more of a real feeling of, you know, how the park will look.
Absolutely.
And how it can connect and be complementary to the school, which is next door. So that was awesome. I'm excited about it.
Back to you, Christina.
Okay, so we kind of covered a lot of what kind of the next steps will be. Is tonight we're hopeful to hear from whomever is on watching or are part of the Zoom. We want you to share your comments or ask any questions regarding the overall project. But as I mentioned earlier, we're in the final stages of the design elements and then just tweaking the final design so that we can start costing out those elements. And then as Scott had also mentioned, that with the certain amenities that are laid out, once we know where they're going to land, then the further detail or whatever, like for example, the skate park, we will be engaging with the community skate community with looking at some of their specifics on the elements themselves to place in there. But for now, we're just looking at the main, you know, where they're going to be placed on the site plan. And then the 3Ds kind of give you a little bit more of a feel of how those things integrate when you're moving from one amenity to the next. So the practical next steps for us with the work with getting this completed will be our community works team will do all those finalizing of the design and the cost. And then our team on the Parks Department, Diane in particular, will be drafting the application for Prop 68. And we're hopeful, like I mentioned, that we will be able to be successful with some funding for this project development. The Prop 68 funding allows up to $8.5 million. Typically, we want to not push the envelope too high, too far, because we know from the last round, some of the feedback that we got just in general with the results of the last funding source was that the average that was awarded was probably around 5 million to 6 million type of projects. And we won't know the final numbers until we work out these details, but just letting you know that we have up to 8.5 million available through this funding source. So we have a lot of opportunity here to build out this park and to really have a wonderful amenity for the neighborhood. And then as Councilmember Soria had mentioned, you know, strengthening our facility use agreement and joint use with the school. So we really appreciate everybody's continued participation in finalizing this tonight. And so I will ask Councilmember if you wanted to make any comments before opening it up to the community, see if they have any questions or want to comment further.
Also, before we move on to that, Christina, thank you for just kind of summarizing the next steps. Did want to see if maybe you could speak to how many have, I guess, surveys have we received as it relates to the design options? I know that the last count that I had heard was over or about 150. Has that number increased, or is it still at 150?
So
Allison knows.
I checked again this afternoon right before the meeting, and I think it was around 164, 166 responses on that survey. So
perfect. Okay.
The trend has been pretty consistent with pretty much overwhelming majority for A. And so I'm not sure if we'll meet tonight, but that's what we want to see, what the folks that maybe just seeing this for the first time, you know, to be able to answer any questions that they may have.
Right, and we'll be able to pull up those A and B exhibits as the questions come in. If there are
Sure.
specific questions to different things, we'll bring it right up.
Okay. So I guess we'll open it up, and then as Councilmember Sawyer, you're able to see if there's hands raised or.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and go to some questions or comments. First person that has their hand up is Linda Fisher. You want to unmute yourself, Linda?
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Hi there. Okay, a few questions. Number one, I was just wondering what the PR was as far as this Zoom this evening, because it was by chance that I just happened to find out about this. Was it somehow flyers sent out to people or dropped off, or what was I'm just wondering what the PR was, because as I said, by chance, I just happened to find out about this. And of course, I'm pretty involved. I should be. And I was wondering what the survey deadline is.
And you wanted to know, what was the last part, Linda?
The survey deadline. Is there a deadline that you put on that, the monkey?
For the input?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yes, so great question. So we did a combination of things, Linda. So we did have our team from District 1 distribute flyers in the neighborhood. And then also we had a food distribution at Steinbeck Elementary earlier in the week. And so we passed them to the community. And that way we also used our social media. And I know the city also advertised it in their Facebook, but use that. So we tried to put it in every social media platform and also connect with those that have participated in the past in the other events that we've had. I think we've had a series of events. Mm-hmm. So different ways, you know, given the COVID time, we've had to get creative, but
isn't there an email list that could have just gone out to notify people?
We also have a mail list, so if they're signed up to receive
I've been on that list like 3 different times, and I still, for some reason, I'm still not getting
Okay, well, if you want to go ahead and just put on your chat, in the chat box, your email, yeah. We're happy to make sure that you receive any other emails from our district so you know what's going on. Okay. And then as it relates to the deadline, I don't know if any of you guys can speak. Are we keeping it open through the week, or what are we doing with the survey for the options?
I would recommend keeping it open through the weekend. We'll close it on Monday.
Okay, perfect. So Linda, there you go. We will be taking input through the survey till Monday, next Monday.
I have a really quick question after this. You know, I think A looks, you know, as the majority, as you said, A looks better, just because I'm wondering why there are 2 dog parks on B, no track for people over, you know, 30 to go walking, which there is in A, which is great. And just more courts, which I don't quite understand that, because the high school, which is a third of a mile away, has tennis courts and a lot of court spaces that people don't even use right now, I don't think, the multi-use courts. So I'm, you know, I mean, I think A looks great. Here's my big question. People go on Dakota, at least, are you thinking, and maybe this is for city planning, are you thinking about some kind of a stop sign or crosswalk or something? Because people go on Dakota, as I know, and many people know, 45 to 55 miles per hour. And that's really scary to me to see on Dakota. My question is, what was the thought behind putting a parking lot there instead of on Milburn? And because this is a community park, why so many parking spaces and maybe not more parking for handicap, because there's only 2? And why not the parking going on Milburn, which is less traffic? Well, I can't say that, but it's not high speed like Dakota is, with the high school down the street with people zooming down Dakota.
Great questions and some feedback. I think going back to kind of the parking, I think one of the conversations we had early on with our consulting group was that we wanted, since it's a neighborhood park, we wanted to kind of limit the parking. We would anticipate that folks from the neighborhood would be walking there, thus less space is needed for parking space. In terms of the ADA requirements for handicap parking, I'm not sure what the number of stalls, but I'm assuming that we're going to be in compliance with that. So I don't know if our current design reflects that, but I can reassure you that our city would make sure that it has the necessary and required number of stalls for those in the neighborhood. You're absolutely correct as it relates to kind of the traffic and the speed of the cars. We're hoping that with the infrastructure built as a result of the park coming with sidewalks and so forth, we would be able to hopefully mitigate some of that. I'm trying to see, I'm not sure if we do have any planned stop signs or any of that sort. I will have to get back to you. So if you put your email on the chat box, we'll be happy to make sure that you get the information and that we follow up with you on that issue. But I think that it will be important to make sure that we do have appropriate safety measures, as people will probably be walking more to that area to access the park. And then just on the courts, I know that the design B does have 3 courts. This one only has 2. But what we heard a lot in the community input was that there was still the need for multi-use courts. We know we have a lot of folks that like to play either futsal or soccer, and so this may allow for that space. We didn't have the space necessary to build additional soccer fields. I know folks are really passionate about that sport, and there's a heavy need or a tremendous amount of need for soccer, but we thought that these multi-use courts would at least satisfy part of the need where, the young people and folks in the community could use it for a variety of things, basketball, futsal, or, a smaller soccer type of game and so forth. And I think those are it for the questions. So thank you, Linda, for chiming in. Anyone else? I know that we've had other people chime in as questions were asked as well. If there are any folks that are on the call that have joined us, I don't know if, I know that we had about 15 other people through the Facebook. See if there are other comments. Okay, so I did get some from the Facebook, and then I'll go back to the raised hand. So from the Facebook, there was Reina Rodriguez, who said, I know that throughout community conversations, soccer fields have been very important, which I kind of alluded to that. Hopefully the multi-use courts will provide that opportunity for folks, and even kind of the green area, right? We had maybe said that folks could play soccer in the green area, correct? Sok, can you maybe?
Yeah, let me see if I can get a better view of that area here.
Yes, and we purposely wanted to keep it because we've heard both, that there's a need. Definitely, we understand that through our park master plan, community outreach. Soccer fields, official soccer fields are one of our #1 needs as a whole community. And then we also talked about the typical amenities that you would find in what is classified, and this park is classified as a neighborhood park. So you kind of need to balance how active, and that's another category that we define our parks, either passive or active. And so we felt that with this design, it really addressed both needs, in that there's enough space here for probably like a junior size field could fit there, but we did not want to burn in those into the field to make it a formal soccer field for league play or that kind of thing. So it would really be more like pickup games and or practice at this point. And then it also gave a lot of flexibility for having more community events. And that's why on this one, you have that stage and the little amphitheaters that you could do, you know, a variety of different special events out there. And having the open green space, you could do movies in the park, have a little farmer's market, you know, it's just really the way it's designed, it really lends itself to do a lot of special one-time things rather than formalizing league type play or whatnot. So I think when we heard, you know, from the 500 plus survey results of the total amenities, that I think our design team did excellent with trying to address everything in a small 4-acre.
Yeah.
Lot.
I think we got as creative as we could with all the input, but
Yes.
you're absolutely correct. The other question that was also made by Reina Rodriguez said, will the exercise area be shaded to allow year-round ease of use for the exercise?
So I'll go ahead and answer that unless Scott, you wanted to chime in on something there.
Oh, just at this stage, this is a point. If the request is to shade the exercise stations, we're going to funnel that into the final design, the final concept. So that's a great comment. That's definitely something that I think that we should work to see if there's a solution. We'll talk with the Parks Department about the preferred materials. Sometimes shade sails work good, sometimes they don't. So we'll talk about the specifics, but if the importance is getting shade on the exercise stations, we'll work on incorporating that. We're seeing a question and answer from Michael Reyna. It says, what material is the dog park? Is it grass or question mark? Well, this is very similar to the skate park, is that we wanted to get the basic layout on the plans just to give the sense of space. Now is a great time to discuss a little bit more in the materials. We typically do some sort of combination in the dog parks. We don't do all decomposed granite or all grass. It's a balance of the two. It's important for the dogs to have a hard surface to keep their nails filed. There's definitely things that are beneficial about having that decomposed granite, but there's also, you want to have the place for the dog when it's panting and it wants to rest, and to have some of those grass areas to lay down in. So it'll be a combination of each. And once we lock down the approximate size of it, and if it's rather if it's one large enclosure or if it's two divided enclosures, then we can start looking at the materials in the final layout.
Perfect. We do have one other hand raised, Kyle Lopez-Schmidt. If you want to go ahead and mute yourself and ask your
Great, thank you.
questions or comments.
Appreciate having the opportunity to talk about parks in our community because they're super important, and I think all of our neighborhoods deserve good quality parks. I live at Palm and Shields in District 1, but this park's not super close to me. Having worked on another park project that kind of the city cut off collaboration on in the Tower District on a city-owned property, I know like the competitiveness of this program from last year, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of density around this park. And I know that numbers of people within like a half mile or a mile relates to how the project scores. So I don't know if there's, if you could comment on how you feel this park will be competitive for the state resources.
So that is one of the criteria that the two that are most critical for the point values are what are the acreage per 1,000 in the area. So this area is very, what we classify as park poor. So I think we'll score very well on that. And the other is actually on the income level, not the number of people as far as density. So on that, I think we're, you know, probably midline on that. I don't remember off the top of my head of where the income median was. And I don't know if Diane, if you had that handy, but, you know, I think that the strength in this project is that it is a new park. That was one of the other critical things that we heard back from the state representatives is that You know, they had, I think, over 490 applications that came in. That was over $200 billion or whatnot. It was a ridiculous amount of need up and down the state. But one of the things that was very clear was with their scoring was to put a little bit heavier weight on those that would either expand existing or create new. And so to your point on the piece downtown or in the Tower District, you know, that would have been new development. So that should have scored well on that component. But on this particular project, I really do feel that what has the strengths here is that it's been vacant for so long, that it has been classified a park, and that this area is so poor in the number of acres of any kind of green space for the district and of course this area.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I don't think, you know, I'm all about making sure that we have parks in all the different areas of the city. I know exactly what area you're talking about. You know, that area, the Tower District also needs some green space. But I think that, you know, this had been a promise made to a community 30 years ago, and the city has never fulfilled that promise. And that's like in the books. It's a promise that was made. And I think that we want to make the community whole. And there's 70,000 people that live west of the 99 with only the opportunity to go to 2 different parks in the city. So as Christina mentioned, it is an area that is extremely poor in park space. And so we're hoping to rectify some of that. But to the Tower area, or, you know, the area that I represent, we're also looking at other opportunities to do more of a neighborhood type of small pocket park in District 1. So stay tuned for that, because before I leave, I want to make sure that we're leaving a little bit of a footprint with additional green space in the district that I represent. Let me see if there are any other folks that want to chime in. If I know we have a few participants. Linda Fisher, you wanted to make your rules. I think you put your hand up again. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
So I'm just wondering, no, I think this is, you know, I think it's, you folks are doing a great job, and I think this is, you know, not an easy challenge here. My question is, what is the rationale for putting parking on Dakota versus Milburn? Why parking on Dakota?
Okay, I'll have our consulting group kind of answer that.
Thank you, council member. This was definitely something that came straight out of the park plans that were presented by the community, where we did the Build a Park event. The location that people chose for the parking lot, there was a trend in that we used to identify the locations. And
wow.
That's
okay.
what pushed in that direction.
But they don't live that whole stretch of Dakota there that I see every day with the 50-mile-per-hour, you know, speed limit. The cars just zooming by there. And it's scary to me for safety reasons, especially.
So
the other reason, this is Tim Maloney, also with Community Works Design Group. The other reason is that puts the parking central to the center of the park and to all of the amenities, as opposed to having it in essence at the west end of the park, and then having to walk all the way to the east end of the park to go to an amenity. So it centralizes the parking.
Is the idea. Okay, to have it centralized. That was the main rationale, and yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it was offered by the community, but I think that bringing up the points of the safety and the high speed traffic, I think that that's an issue that we will have to address. And we will work with our public works staff to make sure that we have the appropriate signage. And if we have to slow down the speed limit in this area, because now we are going to have a park in the area, then we will do whatever we can to make sure that that the area is safe for both the pedestrians and also, the cars traveling in that neighborhood.
And will there be fencing? Will there be, we don't know if there's fencing or if there'll be funds to do a fence around the park?
So typically what we would do is on those amenities, like obviously around the dog park, there would be some fencing there to keep the dogs contained. And then around the courts, one of the key things in our park master plan was overall looking at a policy, if you will, of having our parks accessible also means, with the fencing or whatever, what's more inviting is to have some of those areas that are open access. That there's two thoughts on that. Some are more concerned about having the ability from a security side of, quote, locking down the park.
Right.
So I think most certainly from the perspective of the school district, that there would be some fencing along that whole backside so that they are meeting their requirements. And there would be where we show that access between the park and the school would actually be pretty large rolling fences that could be open for them to access the park and then us to access the school. And then again, those would happen through our joint use agreements with the school.
Okay.
If and when those would be open.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, okay, fantastic. Would with the fencing already in the north end and on the west end or the east end, would there not be a possibility to do some type of fencing on Milburn and Dakota? It would only be two-sided?
I would say that there definitely is the opportunity, and I think our council member would probably be in alignment with my thought on doing something that is much more decorative than what we have typically done with the cyclone fencing. Most certainly the cost factors are there, but I think it warrants, a more decorative, maybe wrought iron, some kind of material that is really aesthetically pleasing and get away from some of the,
Yeah.
Jail looking.
Yeah, but Oso de Oro has a nice, they are closed off, at certain times, and they do have a nice fencing at that point. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
And then we have another hand that was raised. We are joined by Steve Mclean, who is a representative of Central Unified. Steve, if you want to go ahead and mute yourself. Welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you for doing this tonight. We're really excited about this new project and working with the city on this, and it looks like it's going to be a beautiful park, and we just appreciate being part of the planning process, and it's just going to be a great thing for the community out there, so really appreciate it.
Steve, do you have any comments as to maybe some of the things that we discussed in our one-on-one meetings? I know that there was maybe some comments and feedback about, security cameras or even lighting. I know that there's no lighting on the ball fields that you guys have. If that's even an option as part of a joint use plan, and could we, if we submitted through, with the city saying it's going to be a joint use, if there's an opportunity in the application to include that. So I don't know if you want to talk about some of those things, but then, staff and our consulting group, if they can answer that point. But Steve, if you wanted to chime in.
Sure. Yeah, safety is always something that we're looking at around our schools, and being next to a park, having adequate lighting and appropriate fencing, and something that, fencing that's attractive is something that would be something that we would support. And I think as you're applying for grant funds, having those kinds of things in there, I think would lend itself well to this project.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. So I don't know if you guys could maybe speak to that. Is that a possibility as we submit a grant, and if we move forward? I know that we actually have a little bit more time before the grant submittal, but if we do enter to an agreement, say with the an official agreement with the school district, could we, in our grant, propose to incorporate some of those things? One, the security cameras to make sure, right, safety purposes, but then also I know that when we talked to Steve and the facilities folks from Central, they mentioned, you know, the lighting. I don't know if we could put lighting for the field so that they could be used beyond, you know, kind of the lighting hour or the daytime hour in the community.
Right. Before we provide an answer for that, I want to talk to two people. One of them is the grant administrator or rep, and the second would be our sports lighting rep, to make sure that it's a feasible solution. We don't want to propose something and have it where it doesn't really do the job, and then it took up some of the money from the grant. So we want to make sure we get those locked down before we provide a firm answer on that.
Okay.
I just wanted to get clarification of what I believe I'm hearing is that the sports field lighting would be on the school property.
Yeah, like to be able to utilize, maximize the usage of the fields, the baseball fields.
Yeah, I think that we'll need to have a little more discussion with regard to the criteria and actual use of the grant funds for that. When you have two landowners, as far as the commitment for maintaining those amenities for 30 years. So it's just something that we would need further discussion on.
Okay. Sounds good. If there are anyone else, I know there's some still people that have joined us. Any other questions, comments? As mentioned earlier, we're going to keep up the survey on the options open until next Monday. We welcome any additional feedback. We are in the final design phase for the Milburn and Dakota Park. So any last minute questions or feedback?
I do have one more comment that I would like. And that is, while we're not explicitly showing them or depicting them on these renderings, that there will be some, what we call just general lighting in the park that, you know, so there wouldn't be, there's no plan right now for doing any like athletic type field lights on the park side. So it would just be our normal, what we call security lighting, but it's really just the normal light fixtures that you would see in there, except for potentially on the multi-use fields, we might do some directional lighting there, not fields, the courts, excuse me. But really, again, going back to the neighborhood use and typical definition of a neighborhood park is that you're trying to keep it more of a neighborhood, less active as far as formal play, that you want to have, you know, people be able to use it. So there will be lighting and it will be part of our application, but there's no large overhead, like athletic type lights planned for this.
What about, could there be lighting on the park that lights up the ball fields from the park?
So that's actually something that I had in my mind. And again, we want to be cognizant of the total dollars that are available, and you know, park development goes real quick as far as the amount of money, and then depending on the type of amenities. Now, I will say that looking at our schematic as we have, we're probably okay, and so we'll want to give some scenarios on cost estimates if we do or don't do XYZ on either of these concepts, to really kind of see what that engineer's estimate would be for a full build out. But it could be something that we look at along that edge between the two properties. If it's on our side, that could be something that we talk further about, and or at the very least, maybe pull conduit while we're building for future phases if we needed to do or to find different additional monies. So it's all good. And as our consultants have continued to say, we want to hear those kind of specific questions so that we're able to fine tune what we can incorporate. And then really from the grant perspective is the costing out of the full project.
Yeah, I think if you know, you guys just want to make a note of that and see how we can fit that in. If it's first phase, maybe second phase, you know, we can talk about that. But I think I want to be able to, as a just as part of, you know, the joint use agreement, maximize the usage of that area. I think it's a perfect opportunity to be able to increase, you know, the amenities in our community beyond, you know, the daylight hours or so forth. So I think if there is an opportunity, we should try to look for it in the first phase. And if not, we can at least plan for it. We know in advance we can plan for that.
Yes, and we always want to advocate leveraging resources on all aspects, not, you know, whether it's us, the school, or other agencies, that we're able to, you know, leverage those dollars, leverage the resources. We serve the same people in our communities. So I love the joint use. I love, you know, looking at those opportunities, and just, you know, all I'm saying is we just need to be mindful of, you know, how quickly costs add up, and then work through what if and what restrictions there may be with the grant dollars of, you know, not having one landowner. So we'll look through those and get a discussion going.
Perfect. And for those of you that have joined us, if you want to, in the chat box, tell us what option, if you have an option that you prefer, we can take a note of that for our purpose and add it to our tally that we are keeping up through the survey. So just, you know, in closing, I want to thank everyone, thank the residents that have participated on the various platforms. I want to thank our consulting group for the great work that you guys have been doing with our office to get to this stage. Also our Parks department for working very diligently with us, the District 1 team for getting this organized, and just, you know, continue to stay engaged, you know, as we finalize the final design for the park. I know that we now have a little bit of time. I don't know if you did tell the public, Christina, I think that the deadline for the grant has been extended by the state till maybe this next spring.
March 12th, I believe.
Okay, so it's been extended. We were initially thinking that we would have to submit it in November, which is why we've been working really hard to meet the deadline and get all the community input. But we do have a little bit of time, and we'll continue to work with our consulting group to get the final design right that will be competitive at the state level, and hopefully we're able to secure those dollars to build a new park west of the 99. So again, just thank you everyone. Have a good evening. If there are those folks that want to leave your input on the chat, let us know and we'll definitely tally that. So again, thank you for joining us. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Councilmember.